All right, welcome into everybody watching this video on my YouTube page. If you are not a subscriber to the YouTube page, please hit that subscribe button. I do basketball and boxing videos on this feed every single week. So the big story in boxing this week is that Mike Tyson and Jake Paul are going to square off. That's right. The former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, at 57 years old, is going to get into the ring with Jake Paul, a YouTuber, influencer, turned professional boxer who is 31 years younger than Mike Tyson. This fight will take place on July 20th. It will be streamed on Netflix. We'll get to that. And it will take place at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. So let's talk about why this fight is happening. The why for Jake Paul is pretty easy to understand. Jake Paul is looking for marketable events. Over his last two fights, Jake Paul has fought the, quote, real boxers. He has fought Andre August, a former New York Golden Gloves winner. He has fought Ryan, I almost forgot his last name, Ryan Borland, who had a record of 17-2 going into that fight. So he has taken a path towards a traditional boxing prospect. That's been successful. He knocked both these guys out in the first round. It has not moved the needle. People were not talking about Jake Paul against Andre August. They were not talking about Jake Paul against Ryan Borland. They are talking about Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. So Jake has found his white whale here. This is a bigger fight for Jake Paul than any of the fights he has been in with other influencers, MMA fighters, anyone up until this point. Bigger than the Nate Diaz fight, bigger than the two fights with Tyron Woodley, bigger than the fights against Anderson Silva, Tommy Fury. This is huge for Jake Paul. It's going to do big numbers. It's going to drive a huge gate. It's a no-brainer for Jake Paul to want to get into this fight. For Mike Tyson, I'm less sure. Mike Tyson has been out of the professional boxing game since 2005. He's done some exhibitions, did some right after his retirement, fought one against Roy Jones back in 2020, but he has been out of the game for a while. And he has been successful in his post-fight career. He's got the podcast. He's got his own marijuana company. I'm sure he's sponsored, I guess the right way to say it, a whole bunch of different products. So it's not like Mike Tyson is hurting for money. But the only explanation I can come up with for why Mike Tyson, who will be 58 by the time these two guys get into the ring, would want to do this is because there is a Brinks truck waiting for Mike Tyson at the end of it. I'm sure he's getting paid a boatload of money to get into the ring with Jake Paul. So, best of my knowledge, that is why Mike Tyson is doing this. The other factor in this, the other angle to this, is that this will be the first boxing event put on by Netflix. Now, Netflix has dipped its toe into live sports over the last couple of years. Remember, they did that tennis match recently. They did a crossover golf event. So they have been dabbling in the live sports space. This will unquestionably be the biggest live sports event that Netflix has done. And it may turn out to be the biggest boxing match in terms of overall viewership in the modern era. Now, if you go back to the 70s and into the early 80s, boxing did big numbers on network television. The Muhammad Ali fights regularly did 100 million plus viewership worldwide. There's been some reporting that the Rumble in the Jungle did like 1 billion viewers. That might be an exaggeration, but it did a big number as well. But when you got into the 80s, where boxing pivoted to HBO, to premium networks, to pay-per-view, you saw big viewership numbers, low seven-figure viewership numbers, but you didn't see the kind of viewership that you saw back in the Ali days. This has the potential to be a throwback to all that. Netflix has 260 million subscribers globally. Netflix, when this fight takes place, is going to stick this event on the rail at the top of its homepage. So anyone that goes onto Netflix on July 20th, the first thing they're going to see is Mike Tyson against Jake Paul. And I can say with a reasonable amount of certainty that anyone that sees this fight at the top of the rail is going to click on this fight and is probably going to watch some of this fight. So this is a fight that I think can do over 100 million viewers. That might be conservative. If Netflix has 260 million global subscribers, 100 million, or roughly a third of that, that's not crazy to think this could do that type of number, especially with the exposure and the promotion that Netflix is going to put behind it. You've got Jake Paul, one of the most well-known figures amongst a younger audience. Social media, YouTube, now in the boxing space. Young people know Jake Paul. Older people all know Mike Tyson. They remember Mike Tyson from his boxing days. They remember Mike Tyson now with the podcast. You've kind of got a perfect storm of popularity coming together, all on a platform that is as big or bigger than any other platform that's out there right now. So as crazy as it is, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson is going to break modern viewership records. I have no doubt about that. Now, the downside is, what's it going to look like in the ring? Mike Tyson has not put on a pair of boxing gloves for a match since 2020 when he had that fight, I call it fight, with Roy Jones. He has been retired from boxing from nearly 20 years. I know we've all seen the Twitter and Instagram videos of Tyson looking like a menace on the pads, but I've seen Tyson in interviews talking about that pad work. He has said, yeah, that was great. That was fun. But after I did like 30 seconds to a minute of that, I needed like a week off to recover. I saw one video recently of Mike, I think in the Middle East somewhere, with a cane. So I don't know what Mike Tyson is going to look like with a pair of boxing gloves on. I know what Jake Paul looks like. And for all the people out there saying that Mike Tyson is going to annihilate Jake Paul, that he's going to wipe the mat with Jake Paul. Yeah, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, absolutely, I would have agreed with you. But he's 58. In 7 years, Mike Tyson is going to be a senior citizen. Jake Paul's 27 years old. He's been in boxing for the last 5 years. He has gotten better every time he's fought. He unquestionably has power for the cruiserweight / heavyweight division. It's a fight Jake Paul can look really good in. Now, I don't say win because as of right now, I have no idea what the rules are going to be for this fight. It was billed as a boxing mega event. Don't know what that means. I am skeptical that the state of Texas will license Mike Tyson for a traditional heavyweight boxing match. I'm skeptical of that. It would be, I think, a dereliction of duty to do that because Mike is 58 years old. And look, it was just a couple of years ago. Most of us saw clips of Evander Holyfield in the ring with Vitor Belfort, and Vitor nearly took Evander Holyfield's head off in that fight. Nobody wants to see that from Mike Tyson. No one wants to see a legend like Mike Tyson getting knocked out by Jake Paul. So I don't think this will be a traditional 8-round boxing match, regular gloves, regular rules. I just don't see that happening. Will there be headgear involved? Will there be shorter minutes per round? Will there be bigger gloves? These are all things that I think we need to find out before we draw any conclusions about what this fight is going to look like. What it is going to be, though, is a huge event. It is going to be a massive event that a lot of people are going to watch because this cuts through a lot of demographics. It cuts through the young crowd. It cuts through the older crowd, boxing fan. It cuts through the social media influencer demographic. It's going to be big. It could be ugly, but it's going to be big. They're doing this at AT&T Stadium, people. 80,000 fans can fit into AT&T Stadium. Now, I'm skeptical it does that kind of gate because, look, it was 3 years ago now that Canelo Alvarez was at AT&T Stadium. He did 70,000 plus for his title fight against Billy Joe Saunders. And Canelo is as popular as anyone in boxing right now. I'm skeptical that they'll do a full house for this fight. But could they do 50,000? Could they do 60,000? Price the tickets right? Maybe. Might be enough people that are interested in seeing Mike Tyson and Jake Paul put a pair of gloves on and go at it. So it's not going to be for everybody. And I've seen some of the criticism of it on social media. I've seen people roll their eyes and bellyache about what has boxing become. But the reality is Jake Paul has shown enough in boxing to make it interesting on his side. And Mike Tyson is still, even at this stage of his life, a huge name that's going to draw in a big-time audience. So get ready. July 20th, this is what we are going to be talking about. Jake Paul against Mike Tyson, Netflix event. It's going to be big.